Okay, everybody, let's recap the lessons. Today we're still talking about factoring, but today trinomial factoring because our problems have 1, 2, 3 terms of trinomial. Okay, that's a trinomial. Okay, so what we want to do is we start out with the answer. We really did start with the answer. So we want to make this problem look like the original problem. So, okay, we went back to the original problems. Okay, let's just FOIL this. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. 3 times x, 3x. 3 times 4 is 12. We combined the new two middle terms. We got an x squared plus a 7x plus 12. Now that is another form of this, the factored form. So we say, okay, let's do it backwards. These are the same, but how do we, if we didn't know the answer, how do we go from the trinomial form to factored form? Well, we did it this way. We said, okay, we need to go parentheses, 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 because we need to put it in factored form. X squared is x times x. Then we looked at this number, 12. What times what makes 12? Well, there's 2 times 6, there's 3 times 4, and there's even 12 times 1. But which one of these combinations add to make a 7? We said, well, it's got to be the 3 and the 4. And that is the answer. X plus 3, x plus 4, multiply to make 12, but add to make the middle term of 7, okay? On number 2, we did the same thing. We multiplied it out first. X times x is x squared. X times a negative 2 is negative 2x. 4 times x is positive 4x, and 4 times a negative 2 is negative 8. Now we combine the two middle terms. We got an x squared plus a 2x minus 8. Okay, then we said, okay, well, gosh, what if this was the question? The original, what if this question, x squared plus 2x minus 8? We said, well, if we want to factor that, we want it to look like this. Okay, so then we go parentheses, 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 parentheses. And we say to ourselves, well, it's got to be x times x. It's got to be x squared. And we said, what times what makes negative 8? Well, we could have an 8 times a negative 1. We could have a negative 8 times a positive 1. We can have 4 times a negative 2. We can have a negative 4 times a positive 2. Which one of these will add to make positive 2? Well, it's got to be positive 4 times a negative 2. So if you multiply them for the last term. But when you add them, they have to add up to the middle term. So it's got to be positive 4, negative 2. Okay, we did it again. On example 3, multiplied x times x squared, x times negative 2 is negative 2x, minus 5 times x make 5x, negative 5 times negative 10 is positive 10. Okay, then if we combined our two middle terms, we got negative 7x. Okay, so then what if this was the question? Okay, and we want to put it in factored form. Okay, so we did two sets of parentheses, 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 because that's factored form. X times x makes x squared. I said, what times what makes 10? Well, in this case, we could go 1 times 10. We could go on 2 times 5. We could also go negative 2 times a negative 5. We could also go negative 1 times a negative 10. But which of these add up to be negative 7? Sure enough, negative 2 and negative 5. So x minus 5, x minus 2 multiply to make positive 10, but add to make the 7. Okay, negative 7. And then we did fourth one. Again, we started out with the answer. So x times x is x squared. X times 6, negative 6x, positive 3x, minus 18. Okay? Combine the two middle terms, we got negative 3x. So again, we said, what if this was our question? How do we put it in factored form? So factored form, parentheses, 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 right? X times x makes x squared. We got that. What about negative 18? Well, there's lots of combinations. There's, well, let's see, there's negative 18, positive 1. There's an 18 and a negative 1. Well, there's a 9 and a negative 2. There's a 2 and a negative 9. There's a 3 and a negative 6, and there's a 6 and a negative 3. Which one of these combinations will make a negative 3? When you add them, it's got to be that one. So we multiply to make a negative 18, and they add to make the negative 3. So we had x plus, x minus 6, x plus 3. That's the factored form. So then on the back, we just factored. We do factored form. That's what we need to do, just factor, okay? Factored form, we went parentheses, 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 factored form, x times x makes x squared. And then we discovered that a positive 8 times a negative 3 will multiply to make a negative 24, but they'll also add to make the middle term of 5. So that's what we do. We ask ourselves, what times what makes a negative 5 that also adds to make a negative 4? So negative 5, positive 1, multiply to make a negative 5, but they also add to make the negative 4. Okay? 7, we did the same thing. Okay, we know it's a factored form, x and x. So we said, what times what makes 28? What times what makes 28? That also makes a negative 11. We came up with a negative 7, negative 4. That's the only combination. 8, what we did do on 8 first is make it easier. So if you can common factor If you can common factor first, it makes the problem smaller. So we common factored out of 2 out of each term. So that I get an x squared minus 1x minus 1. And then we have to factor it. So we ignore the 2. We look at just the trinomial. Factored form has parentheses, parentheses, x and x makes x squared. And then we discovered negative 4, positive 3, multiplied by to make negative 12. But they also add up to make a negative 1. Okay? 9, same thing. Can we make it easier? Sure, let's make it easier. So we common factored out a multiple of 3. 3 gives us all these, so we factored out of 3. Take out of 3, leaves an x squared, negative 3x, and a negative 40. We say, okay, well, ignore the 3 for right now. And what are the multiples of negative 40 that make a negative 3? Well, we came up with a negative 8 and positive 5. So factored form, x and x minus 8, x plus 5, okay? And then on 10, again, what is going to make this easier? Well, we took out a negative 2 out of all 3 terms. So we common factored out a negative 2, made it a z squared, plus a 3z minus 28. We ignored the negative 2. Factored form, x, parentheses, 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 z and z makes a z squared. Multiples of negative 28, we came up with positive 7, negative 4, that make my positive 7. So that's what I have. If you have any questions, come see me. The homework was a worksheet on factoring.